Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about the elements of literature and what it is about these different elements that helps us as readers really define what the plot of a story is and also be able to determine the theme or the overall message that's coming from any novel, short story, play, or poem that we read. So the first thing we look at is characterization. And through characterization, we really learn about our characters, and we learn this from their actions, their thoughts, their appearance, what other characters say about them, and also what they say, their direct dialogue. These types of things help us to understand our character's personality and define them. It comes in two ways. One is indirect, and one is direct. So let's talk a little bit more about what indirect and direct characterization is. Indirect, that's kind of what they look like, and it's what their speech, their actions, their thoughts are. So we learn about them from what those characters do. Direct characterization is going to be exactly what the narrator says about them. So, for example, direct characterization would say, Molly is a brat. The narrator is telling you that and giving you that knowledge. Indirect would tell you that by her actions. So it might say, Molly stormed in the front door after school, tossed her backpack on the ground, sat at the kitchen table, and said, Give me a cupcake now. And you would say or think to yourself something like, Wow, that little girl's a brat. But we learned it from what she did, not that the narrator told us. Indirect characterization does tend to be stronger. You get the message across clearer because you're seeing it for yourself and you're not learning it just from the words of the narrator. In all of the stories that you read, you're going to have a protagonist and the antagonist. The protagonist is the main character, usually the hero. The antagonist is going to be the opponent of the protagonist, sometimes known as the villain. Um, if we think of the story Three Little Pigs, well, the little pig who built the strongest house out of bricks, he's the hero of the story, the protagonist. The big bad wolf is the antagonist, the one who's trying to make life difficult on all of the three little pigs. We have two types of characters. We have a static character and a dynamic character. A static character is one that never changes from the beginning of the story to the end. They stay the same. Dynamic is going to grow, they're going to change and develop because of conflicts that happen in the story that change them as a person. Some of my slides are more fun than others here. We have types of conflict. Um, get them all up. Man versus man is going to be one person in conflict with another person. Physical fight, an argument. I want to go to the movies. No, I want to go play mini golf. Man versus nature. Think of the Wizard of Oz. No, actually, think of oh, I can't think of it. When you have Dorothy and she's up against this huge tornado and she has to hide in the basement. Um, yeah, this is the Wizard of Oz because of the storm. She's trying to get into that shelter. However, she can't because the winds are too strong. That is her versus nature. You can have man versus obstacle or society. An example would be if you think of To Kill a Mockingbird, and you have Atticus, and he's a lawyer, and he's a good man, and he's against the rest of the Maycomb society because he's trying to fight for an African American, and they don't agree with it. They are a racist society, and they cannot accept it, and he has to stand up to them. Man versus supernatural being would be any type of alien or something that some kind of monster that you are up against. You also can do like man versus technology, which would be losing things to a technological device, and these are all considered external conflicts. Internal would be within yourself. You have a conflict like, hmm, I'm trying to eat super healthy, but there are amazing chocolate chip homemade cookies on the counter, and they're really tempting, so I want one. So I have that internal conflict in myself to decide what to do. There it is, man versus himself, or woman versus herself. Plot diagram. The plot is the sequence or order of events in the story, and we can follow a plot diagram that's going to include an exposition statement right in the beginning. This is when you're learning your characters and your setting, and it kind of is how your story will begin. You then have a rising action. A rising action is going to be the action in the story that leads up to the climax. Climax is going to be the highest point of interest. Usually, a conflict comes out of it, so the struggles or problems between the two forces. The point of crisis in the plot, it may be the highest point of interest. I think it usually is. Then you have a falling action. That's when the story after the climax is revealed. How is it going to all come together? And then it ties into the ending, which would be your resolution, which is going to be when we find out the final outcome and the ending of the story. Theme, central idea or lesson the story conveys. So, why did they write it? There are many different themes. Usually, there's more than one in the story. One is growing up, one has to do with death, another one has to do with Earth. Point of view. So, you're going to have first person point of view, which is I went to the store and I bought candy, and it's all those eyes of what you did. Second person is not common in stories. It's more like recipes when the narrator is speaking to you directly. You need to take 2 eggs and mix it with 1 cup of sugar. And then we have third person, and third person has 3 different types: omniscient, limited, and objective. Omniscient is going to be godlike. You, as a narrator, know what every character is doing and what every character is thinking. Limited is going to be you know exactly everything that one character does and thinks, and then you know some actions of the characters around this specific character. Objective is you don't know what anyone's thinking. It's very much like Fred and Sarah went to the store. Sarah bought a candy bar. Fred got a soda. They went to the cashier and cashed out. The cashier told them it was $3. That's just very this happened and then this and then this. You don't know the thoughts of your characters. So you always want to ask yourself, why are these elements of literature important anyways? How do they tie in and how do they bring my story together? Use these to tie into all the stories you're reading. Always think about these elements, think about their purpose to have a deeper understanding of what you're reading. Have a great day.